Welcome to our channel again. Today we have new story with new hero. There are few names in Hollywood that carry as much weight, as much energy, and as much mystery as Tom Cruise. Whether you love action films, admire resilience, or just enjoy a good comeback story, Tom Cruise's life is one of those tales that keeps evolving with time, and always manages to surprise us. It's hard to imagine a time when he wasn't on the big screen, sprinting full speed, hanging off helicopters, or flashing that iconic smile that somehow never ages. But the truth is, Tom Cruise didn't start as a superstar. His rise, his challenges, his victories, they all make for a story that's not just about fame, but about perseverance, reinvention, and sheer willpower. Let's go back. Before the Hollywood lights, before the Oscars buzz, and way before the global franchises, Tom Cruise was just a kid named Thomas Cruise Mapother IV. Born in Syracuse, New York, in 1962, he had a pretty tough childhood. His father was abusive, and the family moved around constantly. By the time he was 14, Tom had attended about 15 different schools. That's not the kind of childhood you'd expect from one of the world's biggest stars. But maybe that's exactly what shaped him. Tom was always a dreamer. At one point, he even considered becoming a priest. Can you believe that? Imagine a world where Tom Cruise is in the church instead of on the screen. But life had other plans. He got into acting in high school, and it was one of the first places he found a sense of identity. He wasn't the tallest guy in the room, he wasn't from a Hollywood family, and he didn't have any special connections. What he had was drive. Serious, relentless drive. In the early 1980s, Tom started landing roles. Small ones at first, but he was already turning heads. And then came Risky Business, in 1983. Just imagine this. A young guy sliding across the floor in his socks and underwear to the sound of old-time rock and roll, and suddenly, he's a star. That one moment became iconic. It was bold, fun, and totally new. Audiences hadn't seen anyone like him before. But Tom Cruise didn't want to be just another pretty face in Hollywood. He wanted to be the best. He started choosing roles that stretched him. Top Gun, in 1986, turned him into an international phenomenon. Maverick wasn't just a character, it was an attitude, a feeling. People left the theaters wanting to fly jets, wear aviators, and push the limits. That film didn't just make money. It made Tom Cruise a symbol. What followed was a string of performances that showed just how versatile he could be. In Rain Man, he played opposite Dustin Hoffman and held his own. In Born on the 4th of July, he transformed into a disabled Vietnam vet, earning an Academy Award nomination. Over and over again, Tom proved he wasn't afraid of the hard stuff. He wanted roles that meant something. Now, we can't talk about Tom Cruise without talking about Mission Impossible. When the first film came out in 1996, it wasn't just a movie. It was a statement. Tom produced it himself, taking a massive risk, and it paid off. That franchise has now become one of the most successful in cinema history. And what makes it truly stand out? It's that he does most of his own stunts. From hanging off the side of planes to holding his breath underwater for 6 minutes, Tom Cruise doesn't fake it. He brings the real deal. And audiences respect that. But life hasn't always been smooth for him. We've all seen the headlines about his marriages, his connection to Scientology, and moments in interviews that seemed a little out there. Yet somehow, Tom Cruise always comes back. When people think he's finished, he delivers another hit. And not just any hit, but the kind that brings audiences back to theaters in an age where streaming dominates everything. Take Top Gun, Maverick, for example. When that sequel finally hit theaters in 2022 after years of delays, it was more than just a nostalgia trip. It reminded the world why people go to the movies. It had heart, action, emotion, and Tom Cruise giving everything he had. It became a global blockbuster and, for many, the best film of that year. It didn't rely on CGI superheroes. It relied on a human being willing to give 110%. And here's where things get really inspiring. Tom Cruise, in his 60s, is still doing things most actors in their 30s won't dare try. He trains like an athlete. He learns to fly helicopters. He rides motorcycles off cliffs. Not for show, but for the love of storytelling. He believes the audience deserves the best. That's not ego. That's respect. For cinema, for fans, for the art. Behind the camera, he's just as focused. He's known for being intensely professional. He runs a tight set, makes sure everyone is doing their best, and doesn't waste a second. Some people call that extreme. But when you look at the results, you can't argue with the dedication. In recent years, Cruise has become something even more powerful than a movie star. He's become a symbol of what old-school Hollywood was, and what modern Hollywood desperately needs. In an era of shortcuts and digital tricks, Tom Cruise reminds us of the power of real effort, real stunts, and real emotions. He's not about pretending, he's about delivering. And here's the part that really hits home. Tom Cruise is one of the last actors who can get people to come together, in theaters, across ages, around the world. He's not trending for a scandal. He's trending because he jumps out of planes, risks his life, and smiles through it all. He makes people believe in heroes again, not because they have powers, but because they refuse to quit. Now, there's talk about what's next. More Mission Impossible films are on the way. There's buzz about a space movie he wants to film on the actual International Space Station. Yes, you heard that right, Tom Cruise wants to go to space for real. Who else even thinks like that? It's not just a stunt. It's about pushing boundaries and showing people that anything is possible. And you know what's even more amazing? He does it all with grace. You won't see him trashing other actors. You won't see him begging for likes on social media. In fact, he barely uses social media at all. He lets the work speak. That's rare. That's powerful. Fans around the world see him not just as an actor, but as a living legend. And not because he's perfect, but because he never stops trying. He never stops pushing. He never gives less than his best. That's why generations keep falling in love with him. Parents introduce their kids to his movies. Young fans discover his older films and go, wow, this guy was amazing even back then. Tom Cruise's story isn't about being born lucky. It's about rising from struggle, facing pressure, making mistakes, learning, evolving, and showing up every single time. And in a world that changes so fast, where stars fade overnight, Tom Cruise remains steady. He gives us something rare: consistency, passion, and a touch of magic. So next time you watch him sprint across a rooftop, dangle from a cliff, or deliver an emotional line with tears in his eyes, remember, this isn't just a performance. It's decades of dedication, of pain, of glory, of purpose. It's a man who took the impossible and made it look effortless. That's not just movie magic. That's Tom Cruise. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe a channel for more stories.